Welcome everybody. I'm starting a new series where I go over lists of data. We'll create one for like posts, which is kind of like a Facebook newsfeed style scrolling, contacts page, and maybe text messages. A lot of times you'll use you scroll a lot on Android and like you want lists of data like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. I'm going to go over a couple of ways to do that. In this video we're going to do a simple start. We're going to use something called RecyclerView. So let's do let's see here. Contacts app, that'll work for now. Enter, and that'll create the new project for us. And there are a couple of things we need to do. You'll notice I made the font size a little bit bigger, so hopefully you can hear it all right. You can see it all right in this video. But one of the things we need to do is let's just go ahead and run it. So Control R to run it on Mac, and I have an emulator set up. And I'm going to go ahead and open up. Actually, I don't have it opened up, so it'll open up here in just a second. I'll bring it into the screen. It's loading. I have a fairly fast machine. It should take a couple more seconds. And we'll see the beginning of our app. It doesn't really have anything that we want in it yet, but we'll create this into a list of contacts. So you want to see a name of people, say Daniel Malone, Mel Malone, Hannah Malone, or whatever. It'll just scroll through there. So here we go. And simple, it just says hello world. There's no scrolling, there's no nothing. Let's go into our Android view there. Let's go into Resources, Layouts, Activity Main, and let's get rid of what we have here, and let's put in something called the Recycler view. And I'm not in the design view at the bottom. I'm in the text view. Let's do Recycler view, but we don't have it here. How do we get that? Well, let's go to Chrome and let's see. Android Recycler view. Let's click on this link, and if we go to the bottom, you'll see there's a couple of options. So let's add our dependencies. I'm going to copy that, go back into Android Studio, and a lot of times you need to add something into the Gradle file. So an Android view here, I'm an Android view, Gradle scripts, build.gradle module app. I'm going to look for the dependencies section, and between that and that, I'm going to put these 2 lines of code. I'm going to paste it in, and you'll see immediately red lines underneath them, which basically means that there's an error. It's not going to run properly. What can we do? So it's basically telling us we have 21 here, but if we look at our compile SDK version, up here it's 25. So let's do something. Let's change 21 to 25. Let's do the same thing here, and if you're watching in later years, you might need to put in 26 or 27. So that gets rid of the reg squiggly lines, but we can still do even more work. So it says 25.3.1 is available. So let's do 3.1, and that gets rid of that. 3.1, and that gets rid of that. I'm going to save it. And now before anything in here takes effect, go up to the top and press the button Sync Now. And this will sync your code up with all these dependencies, and it'll pull it in. And that's done. I am on Google Fiber here in South Austin, Texas. I'm in the United States for those international listeners. And I have Google Fiber, which is gigabit not wireless, but wired. I have a Wi-Fi router. It's pretty fast is the point. So let's go into Layout and Main Activity, and now we should be able to use RecyclerView. So let's do RecyclerView, and there it is. Match. I'm going to get rid of the closing tag and do a self-closing tag, and we need to give it an ID, and we'll name this RecyclerView. So save that and reformat the code. Save it. We run it, and we'll pull up the emulator, and nothing really should have changed except for it got rid of that button actually, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to go ahead and shift click on that to close that, and we're done with this. So shift click on the title, and we're done. So now let's do something. First of all, we're going to create a list of contacts, like names of people. How are we going to do that? Well, first we need a data source, and we could go into the phone's contacts and use that. But for this simple example, we're going to use ArrayList. So what did I just type here? So ArrayList is something, as the name might suggest, it says that you want a list of something. You want a list of invoices, a list of clients, a list of customers, a list of orders, a list of tracking websites, a list of news organizations. In this case, we have a list of string. So a string is a name, or a string is basically any text you type out. So, you know, text, all that's a string there. And that won't work because it's in the wrong place, but that's what a string is. So now let's go down into our onCreate and let's set that up. So let's do mcontacts equals new ArrayList, and we're going to close it like that. So it says, hey, give me a list of strings. In this case will be names like Daniel Malone or Mel Malone or whatever. Call that variable mcontacts, and then on create, come down to mcontacts and create a new list view and set it all up for us so we can have the counting ability and we can add hundreds and thousands of customers to our app. So let's do something else. Let's do mcontacts.add. And I'm going to duplicate that and name this Mel Malone. And so I'm going to save it and run it. And if we look at our emulator, nothing should have changed because we're not actually displaying that on the app yet. Let's do something. Let's type, just for testing, let's type for I. Enter, enter, mcontacts.size, enter, and let's do log D, enter, mcontacts.get I. So what did I just do here? So when you type for I, it gives you a little hint. It'll generate a bunch of code for you. So I did that, and basically saying, hey, a number is going to start at 0. This number needs to be less than the contact size. This variable increments every single time. So if we had hundreds of these names, it'd list through them that many times. Right now we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 of those. And it's looking for a tag here. There's an error. So it's going to go to the top, log T, enter, enter, and there we go. It gets rid of the error. So between this and this, it's going to perform this however many times. So what did we say, 5 or 6 or whatever? 6 times. So this will go through it 6 times. I'm going to save it and I'm going to run the app. I'll go to the emulator. It'll pull up the app, and still you don't see anything. That's because log D logs it to the console. This is just for development. So I'm going to open up Android Monitor, and as you can see, there's Daniel Malone, there's Mel Malone, Mel, there's a bunch of Mel Malones. So this is working as it should, but this is not exactly very useful, so I'm going to get rid of all that, and let's set up our recycler view. How do we do that? Well, let's go up to here. Let's actually start right here. Let's do RecyclerView, mRecyclerView. To get that set up, we'll do mRecyclerView equals find view by ID, r.id.recyclerView, and put my mouse over it, option enter, enter, and that gets rid of the error. So the reason we're calling it RecyclerView here is because in our activity main, and I can just command click on it, or I can click on it over here. I'm just going to go ahead and command click here, but we named it, the RecyclerView has an ID of recycler_view right there. So this recycler_view right there associates it with that right there. So those are linked together. So what do we need to do next? Let's come down here. Let's do mRecyclerView.set has fixed size true. This is a performance enhancement. So if your list of contacts is only going to have 100 contacts, Android can use that to optimize the app and make sure that it's running as fast as possible. So mRecycler, we need to do some more stuff at the top. Let's do RecyclerView.layout manager. We'll name that mLayout manager. RecyclerView.adapter, and we'll name that MAdapter is fine for now. We'll name that MAdapter. We'll come down here, mLayout manager equals new linear layout manager, and I'll pass in this there. We'll do let's see, what do we need to do next? MAdapter equals new MainAdapter. We need to do, what else do we need to do? mRecyclerView.set, what do we need to set? Layout manager, mLayout manager, and mRecyclerView.set adapter, MAdapter. So this line is for performance, like we talked about. This one has to do with the layout of items. This one has to do with how we, I'll get to that in just a second. And these two lines, that line and that line, are both about setting up the recycler view. So right now, you will see we can't run this. If I try to run it, I'll get an error. I should get an error at the bottom. Yeah, so it's not working quite right. It's not working quite yet. So in our back in main activity here where we got the error, and you can see that it has a red squiggly line underneath that, under that. This is not going to work. So let's do Option Enter, 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 and it'll create that class for us. So I'm going to get rid of that, and we'll notice that MainAdapter, the class that we need, extends RecyclerView.adapter. Let's also do MainAdapter.view whole. We'll name it dot. And you'll notice we're getting a lot of errors here. So what can we do? Put our mouse over it, and for the next couple of seconds, I'll do it really fast, but you just notice whenever there's a red squiggly line under or something, it means that it's having a problem with it and it won't run. So I'm going to put my mouse on it and do Option Enter, Enter, Enter. That generates some code for us. Put my mouse over the shred again, Option Enter, Enter. Still an error, Option Enter, Enter. Put your mouse over this, Option Enter, Enter, and it generated a bunch of code for us. So this is kind of what we need. I'm going to go ahead and run it on our device, and there's really nothing to see. mcontacts, what are mcontacts? We'll get to this. Actually, oh yeah, it's not accepting it. So yeah, it won't run yet, but it'll run in just a few minutes. So let's keep working on this and see if we can get this working. So first of all, in here, we're setting up MainAdapter, but it's expecting contacts. Now, if we go into MainAdapter, this class that we just created, it's not actually asking for anything. So let's do something. Let's do ArrayList string mcontacts. So just like we have in main activity at the top, we could have just copied that line, but I typed it out instead. I'm going to do Control Enter, constructor enter. And that should get rid of the error. And if we run it, I think this might work, but it's not going to show the data yet because we don't actually have that. So let's come down here. There are a couple of methods. This is called our constructor. It's called a constructor because it has the same name as the class name. So the class, everything from here, all of this code is the class MainAdapter. This is its constructor. It's a method that's called the same name as that. So we have that set up. We have on create view holder, on bind view holder. We can update this very quickly. So let's do mcontacts.size. That'll set how many rows we have. So say we have 100 contacts, that'll be 100, or we have 5, that'll be 5. However many contacts we have, that's the number that we need to return. And mcontacts, we're passing it through there, and we're getting it through the constructor, and the size is there. So that's all set up and good. Now let's see, inside of here, let's do something. Let's do public text view name. Let's do full name, and we'll work on that in just a second. Come down in here, let's do full name equals item view dot find view by id r.id dot full underscore name. Put your mouse over that, and that's actually. Let's go ahead and do something real quick. Let's go to the layout, right click on that, go to new layout, and let's name this row. And we'll go ahead and switch to the text view, and we'll do match wrap, and we'll do ID, we'll do full name there. Now we'll switch back to here, and we're getting an error, so I'm going to put my mouse over it and do Option Enter, Enter, and there we go. So that's working, and if we run this, I don't know if it'll work or not yet. Well, definitely it's not what we want, so there's more work to do. Let's go inside of onBind view holder. This is where we kind of associate this data, the contact, the name of Daniel Malone, with an actual row. So let's do holder.mfullname.setText, and let's do mcontacts.getPosition. So it's saying, hey, holder, which we get right there, get the full name, which is right there, and set the text to something. We could hard code Daniel there, but instead of that, we're going to use the contacts variable, which has, right now it has just 2 people in it, but it'll loop through there, and it'll start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 99, 100, 200, 500. It'll just keep going. So that's good. Now let's come up to our onCreateView holder and do view equals layout inflator dot from parent.getContext.inflate, and I think it takes a resource, so r.layout. It's over here, it's called row, so r.layout.row, pass in the parent, false, and there we go. Let's do an enter. Let's do return new view holder view. So I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to go ahead and run this really quick and see what we get, to see if it crashes or not, if we did something wrong. There we go. We get Daniel Malone and we get Mel Malone. Now you notice it's scrolling all right. Let's do a couple of things. Let's make that text bigger. So let's do text size. Let's do 32 SP. Let's do that and run it. Let's go back to the emulator, and that name should be much bigger now. Yeah, so there we go. So you notice it's kind of weird. Like, look at this. You have to scroll all the way down, and one of the reasons is that because this is match parent. Let's change this to wrap content in our row. So basically, our row will take up. Let's go to it. Our row will take up like kind of like that's well, it's zoomed out. So our row will basically be like 1, 2, 3. It'll wrap. That's just what you have to do to make it to work. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. Go back to my emulator, and you'll see these should be right next to each other, and they are. But there's no room to scroll because there's nothing to scroll to. Like there are only 2 names. So let's do something really quick. Let's add a bunch of names. Let's do for I, which is a nice little template. Enter 100 mcontacts.add, and we'll add Daniel Malone number. So this will add a bunch of contacts, and I'll explain this in just a second, but first let's go back to the app and see it. So now we're getting some weird stuff with constraint layout, which is still really buggy in the beginning of 2017. So I'm going to get rid of that, and here switch to the text view. I'm going to change this to a linear layout, and that should get rid of that error. So I'm going to save that and run it again. And that didn't do it. So we're going to do match there, save it and run it. This is stuff that has to do with constraint layout, the new layout manager, and it's kind of buggy right now. So here we go. Now you can scroll through this list. So what are we doing? Let's quickly review everything. We're setting up ArrayList, which is a list of contacts. So contacts. We can call the add method on it. So we just put contacts.add.add.add. In this case, we're looping this line right here 100 times. So Daniel Malone number, other than the variable, which is I. So in for loops, you have 3 main things. You have your starting point, you have your if statement, and you have your whatever happens every single time. So it's saying start at 0, go to 100, and increase, start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll go all the way up to 100 there. So let's do a couple of more things. Let's go to row, and let's do this. Let's do CardView match. Whoops. Get rid of that. And let's get rid of this. Let's put that down there. Let's go ahead and add some margin, 12 dp. Save that. Add some padding, 12 dp, save that, reformat it, go back to the emulator, and this should be pretty nice. So now we're getting a list of card views in Android Studio, which is kind of what we want. So a quick review over everything, and then this will be it. And I'll make at least a couple more videos highlighting different lists and types. This list right here is just for contacts. We could get more fancy with the design. You could actually add real data. You could use a Realm database. You could use SQLite. You could use web services. You could use OKHTTP. You could use Firebase. You could use whatever you want. But the thing that kind of is similar about all of them is that you're probably always going to be using RecyclerView, which is Android Studio's kind of built-in. It's a replacement for ListView. So what we did is we went to main activity, set up our contacts. We set up a RecyclerView. We add some names too. We add 100 names there. We set up our layout. We add this stuff down here. And then we had to set up all of this, which I won't really go over, I guess, because it's a little bit complicated. But I'll put this code up on GitHub, and you can. I'll put this in the YouTube link, and you can get to it. But I intend to make several more RecyclerView videos kind of like this, but for maybe like one will be with pictures, with photos, and one will be using an API, a JSON API, with JSON objects and JSON arrays. So you can get a better view of what you can do with RecyclerView. But if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Sometimes I'm really busy, so I don't always get to them, but I'll try my best to get to the ones I can. If you have any questions or if you have any requests for videos, let me know and I'll make more in the future. Thanks.